Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today, this is part 3 of how to install water on your 5-acre farm. So on part 1, we talked about, buying a piece of land that didn't have much on there. What's the first step to take? And I covered that, and that was, working on your perimeter fence. And then part 2 is actually installing the perimeter fence and your interior fence, and the importance and how the procedures, how to do that. And then I announced on part 3, we're going to be talking about the water. And, water is critical for animals. And I see so many people go out and they skip this step. They'll put a tub out here in the corner of the pasture and they're packing water in the wintertime. They're trying to carry water to animals. And, even in the summertime, it's just brutal. I mean, water is heavy. It's 8 pounds to the gallon. And, if you got 10 sheep in there, you got to pack enough water if they don't run out. Goats, cattle, whatever. They're 70% water. And if you give them subpar water, they're not going to produce as well. They're just not going to have as good as animal performance. So, water is critical. And most of the farms or, people that are buying these tracts of land, there's going to be either a well on them or there's going to be a water meter, public, what they call county water. And so what I'm going to cover today is the most economical water source to put in that I know of. And I'm going to draw it in, show you what we're doing, and show you some of the parts that we use to do that. So we covered in the last part 2, don't get carried away putting a whole bunch of permanent fence in here. We're only going to put one. So we've got our perimeter fence in. Interior fence. We're going to put one interior fence in right here. Okay, so we just split our farm in half. And this wire, if you're going to be running sheep, we talked about it being a 3-wire high tensile fence. I've already covered the high tensile fence, so I'm not going to cover that on this video. But here, underneath this wire, okay, before I ever put this fence in, first of all, before I put that fence in, I'm going to trench my water line in. You can go rent a trencher. You can go to any rental store and get a trencher for half a day. Heck, this for 5 acres. I mean, you could probably put that in. Well, in mid-Missouri, where you're just in clay, you could put that in probably, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 hours. And you can rent the trencher, bring it out, trench your line in, have your pipe ready, lay it down in the trench with these. So we're going to be laying pipe, and this is high-density polyethylene pipe. And this is the good pipe, okay? There's a standard of different pipes, and you can't just go to Lowe's or Menards and buy this. It's not going to work, not with this fitting. This is called the Filmac, okay? I love these fittings. I just love them. And the reason I love them, you can do it all by hand, okay? So your pipe just goes into this like so. Get that off of there, see? And there's a rubber bushing. Let me, don't mess this up. There's a rubber bushing right here. Okay, see it? See that rubber bushing? I'm moving it back and forth. Well, that goes in the bottom of that hole right here, okay? So that bushing goes in, and then my pipe goes down around that bushing. And then that green piece, it goes down in there. That's what seals it, holds the pipe in. And then when you tighten this down, that green piece has actually got threads on this kind of cutting into this. Okay, when you tighten it by hand, you're supposed to only give it a half a turn once it gets tight with a pair of plumber's pliers. I usually just use my hand. I'm pretty stout in my hand. I think that was from when I was younger, milking a cow for 12 years. I got, pretty good hand strength. Anyway, you can't pull that out. You can't pull that out. This is a 3/4, okay? So it's got pipe threads in there. Well, what's this for? Well, this is for the Plasson quick coupler. Check this little puppy out, okay? It's got male threads on it. I put some Teflon tape on there. And I just take and screw that into that female 3/4 threads on the Filmac fitting. Tighten it up. Done. I've already got my pipe going on down through my 5 acres. So this is gonna be my first water point. And all you gotta do is pop that up. Now I'm burying this, and it depends where you're burying that. In mid-Missouri, we can go down about 20 inches and we're fine. In Minnesota, no. You have to go a lot deeper. And to reach down and plug that in, it's a real deal. I'm not sure how you do that in Minnesota because you're gonna have to go, 6 feet. But for, let's say from northern Missouri clear down to the coast of Alabama, and all the way to the East Coast, you can use these. And you're gonna get by doing it, well, shoot. Down in Louisiana, you get on, you put it down probably 8 to 10 inches, you'd be fine. It's not going to freeze down there. But the purpose is to get it down below the sunlight and the animals messing with it. So if it's down in the ground, they can't get their nose on it, and the sun is not going to heat up your water pipe. Okay, on a 100-degree day, this is black. It's going to soak up sun. It's going to get hot, and when the water comes through here, see the water comes through this little guy. This is my male. Well, see, it goes down in that hole. And see this hook right here on the side? When I push down on this, watch this. It clicks. It clicks on that lip. I've got water. There's water coming out of there because this is pressurized. This is hooked onto your water source, whether it's a well, rural water, whatever. So everywhere you put one of these, they're going to be under this fence right here. And if you've got 5 acres, it's a relatively small area. For the price of this, I'm going to put one probably about every 100 feet. I am. Because you're looking at the female. This is called, let me unplug this. This is called the female. Okay. It's got a nice little lid on it when you're not using it. This is called the male. You only need one of these. And then wherever you want water, you put one of these, the T's. This is called the T. And this is your female, okay? Once you get all this plumbed in, folks, it's done. It's done. You don't have to mess with it again, okay? It's down in the ground. The animals can't mess with it. You're not going to mow it off with a brush hog because you forgot about it. It's down below the ground. And I'm going to show you how we put these in down below the ground here in a little bit. So anywhere you want to put water, you're talking about, I think this fitting, the T's are like 15, 20 bucks. And this guy here's 15. So you're looking at $35 to $40 for every water point. Okay. You know what a hydrant costs today? A good one? It's $150, $170. If you put a hydrant everywhere you wanted water down to, it would cost you a fortune. We're talking around 40 bucks. Okay. And it's permanent. It's permanent. You're never going to have to mess with it again. And see, it's all high-density polyethylene, these fittings. I used to use plumber, those little stainless steel hose clamps. They leak, they rust, and you have a water leak. That's what you have. There's nothing here to rust. There's nothing here to rust. And this is a stout fitting, okay? Now, I've got it down below the ground, so in the wintertime it can't freeze. It's not going to freeze and crack. High-density polyethylene, it can freeze. It's not going to crack. If this is PVC pipe, look out. If it freezes, you got a cracked pipe every single time. But with high-density polyethylene, it will not crack. It won't. I've frozen many a times. Folks, if you're leasing land and you don't want to bury this pipe, you could put this underneath a paddock division, keep it above the ground, and when you move on from that lease 5-10 years from now, you can take all this with you because it's above ground. You're going to say, but Greg, it's going to get hot. It's in the sun. No, it's not, because over a period of time, the grass grows up around this pipe. You can't find it. And with the grass as your camouflage and the heat reflector, keeping the sun up here, it can't get to the pipe. Jan and I leased the farm. We just bought it last summer. We had that pipe on top of the ground for 21 years. 21 years. And we had couplers like this, and it worked fine. It watered an 80-acre farm. It's up to you. I mean, we were able to take that pipe up. We bought the farm and we buried it. We buried it. Okay. Now, so I think I've explained how to run those. You just run it in the trench. Everywhere you want a water line, you put a coupler on there. How are you going to plumb that puppy in? In other words, if you bury this, what keeps dirt and debris and snakes and possums from falling down in that hole? Because when it rains, this is all going to get covered in dirt. No, it's not. Because I'm going to do this. Okay? So, let me take this cap off. There we go. So this is sewer pipe. It's called STR. Go to your sewer pipe, where you buy sewer pipe at, and this is STR, and this is PVC. Okay? You can take a Sawzall and cut a mouse hole out of here on each side. Okay? Why do you want a mouse hole? I'll tell you why. That mouse hole, let me get this up, goes over this, so that when you set that down in your hole, that mouse hole goes down over your pipe and it doesn't set on the pipe. It's the same way on each side. See that? I'm going wrong. There you go. Cut your mouse hole out on both sides. How high do you cut that mouse hole? I like to go about 4 inches, okay? That way the pipe goes, this big pipe, the PVC, goes over your high density polyethylene, and see up in there? It's nice and centered. That's the way you want it. And when you get this, depending on how deep you go, Jan and I put these in Tucson, Arizona. This is about all we put in. This is about 12 inches. It doesn't freeze out there. We just wanted to keep the rattlesnakes, and we wanted to get it down below the desert sun because it gets hot in Arizona. And then we put one of these on it. All this is a PVC cap. Okay, when you're done, just put the cap on. That keeps the snakes and the possums. Folks, I reached down on one of these one night and it scared me to death. I didn't have a light with me. I reached down and all I felt was fur. It didn't take me long getting my hand out of there. And it was deep. It was down there probably 20, 24 inches. And yeah, it was a possum. I forgot to put the cap on it. And a possum had got down in there and he died. He'd been there about a month. And I picked that possum out of there in chunks. And boy, you talk about a sneaking mess. Always make sure you put a cap on that, okay? And the other thing you want to do is just close that yellow cap if you're not using it anymore. So these with the cap, let me put that back on it. These are placed everywhere you want water. Okay, so you can take a Sawzall, this STR they call it, STR, it comes in 13-foot lengths. Calculate how deep you want to run your pipe, the coupler, cut a chunk of this, okay? Make sure you leave some sticking up above ground, and then drive a stake by it. Or if you got it in the fence line, don't worry about it because you're not going to mow it off. But if you got it out in the middle of your pasture out here, you better put a white stake by it because you'll forget it's out there and you'll be just going along there one day just happy, brush hogging, and you'll hear a clink and you ran over one of these. Okay? Well, you probably didn't get your water pipe, but you sure done a number to this. And and then you got to replace your I call these standoffs. I think I've explained that pretty well. Okay? So now we've got our water in all the way down the length of our farm. We're not using a stinking water hose to water animals on a hot day. Folks, if a water hose blows open on a hot day and you're not there, you're at work, and you've got a tank out and you've got a flock of sheep out here coming to drink, if that water hose blows open and you're on city water, I've had it happen. And back in those days, I was moving my animals every 2 days. That darn thing ran for 2 days. That's a $300 water bill. That's a $300 to $400 water bill because it's just cranking out of there 60 PSI. I mean, it's blasting out of there. Don't do that. Don't use a water hose, a latex. I'm going to cover that in another video. Use a good one. I go to a hydraulic hose manufacturer and they've got them up around 100 PSI. Get the 100 PSI. It's a really nice, thick a 5/8 hose, or you can get, I don't go with a 1/2 inch, go with a 5/8. It just fills your water tank faster. That's going to be something we're going to cover in another video. But right now, I think I've covered how to install water. You got to come from your water source, wherever that is. You may have to hire somebody with a mini hoe, or if you're young and stout, get a spade. I've done many times. Dig down to your water meter. Okay, hook onto it. Make sure the water's shut off when you hook onto it, and come off of their fitting, and it's going to be a brass fitting. And from that brass fitting, there's a brass fitting that goes on this, and you can crank it down, and now you're back to HDPE, high density polyethylene, and you won't need any more brass all the rest of the way through your water system. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. When you first energize it, in other words, you put water into this pipe, make sure you have one of these hooked up, stuck in like this at the far end of your water. Because when you plug that in and you turn your water meter on, this line's going to be full of air, and it's going to be blowing air down. Well, if you don't have this plugged in, there's nowhere for the air to go, and you're not going to get water to come down your water line. Once you get it cleaned out, all the air, and it's full of water, you never have to do that again. But the first time you want to put a coupler, a male, this is called the male. This is hooked to your real heavy duty 100 PSI garden hose, which goes to your livestock tank, which I'll be showing a diagram of that, how we do that. That air can come down that line, fill that line full of water, and you're good to go. You're good to go, okay? So I think I've got that covered pretty well. If y'all have any questions on this video, you know how to do it. Hit the comments, and we'll go from there. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all for watching, and have a great one, and hit that subscribe button on that, and we'll see you down the road. Oh, part 4. I didn't tell you about that. Part 4, we're going to be talking about how we rotate them. How's this all come together? Okay, we've got our water. We already talked about that. I didn't really draw that in there. We've got our water points. We've got our quick couplers. That's what these are. We've got those in there. And folks, you can get these Plasson quick couplers from Timeless Fence. Powerflex carries them, but these parts right here, the pipe and the Filmac fitting, the only place that I know that carries them is Powerflex Fence. So when you call them, ask for Jesse. Tell Jesse that Greg sent you, and she'll take care of you. Jesse knows her stuff. Anyway, I'll get off of here, and we're going to be talking about how we're going to rotate these animals. Now we got our perimeter in, we got our cross fence in, we got our water in. We're almost ready to bring animals on. We're going to have some fun. Y'all have a good one. See you next time.